I do now when I coach women. So I coach women over 50. And what happened is in the 90s, after I got through with all my bakery stuff, I decided to become a certified trainer. So in 1995, I got my first certification. And I was about 35, 36 years old. And a lot of the women that came to me, because it was mostly women that I was working with, were 50 and their early 50s. And the reason was, the kids were out of the house at that age. They finally had time for themselves. And so they're like, you know what? I've kind of, slacked off or let myself go a little bit. I really need to get back on.
Sorry, can I just stop you there for one moment? I think we had some slight technical glitches just now because we had some people saying they couldn't see and hear us, and the screen was black to begin with. So could we just quickly, I think it's all okay now because I can see on my phone that we are live, but could we just, I'm sorry to stop you mid-flow, but I can see all these comments saying, but now I can see we're back again. Could you just start again? Sorry, you say it's going to be the weirdest background. Let's go from there.
Well, my background is in the food business, and I was a restaurant pastry chef and bakery owner for years. And I've always had this thing for fitness at the same time. And so in 1995, I made the decision to just break off from the whole food business and get into what I really loved at the time, which is fitness.
And this is one of the things, sorry, I'm just, but we will come back to that in a minute. I just think that's quite momentous. You dropped that quite early in the conversation. And I think this is why I said, Linda is a fitness coach with a difference. That she's 60 in January. Sorry, just to drop that in as well. And anyway, we're going to come back to that a bit more in a minute. Go back to where you were. Sorry. That needed acknowledgement.
No, I wanted to bring that up first because it's one of those things when I first did my website, and I had a website reviewer look at it, and she said, this was actually a coach I used to work with. And she said, well, how do you get credibility with your clientele? Because clearly you're not you're not 50 yet. And at the time I was 57, I think. And I told her, and she said, you need to put that on your website because people need to know. And so that's why I bring it up, because it's one of those things that, and we'll go into all this, my theories about what aging really is and what it means to be ageless. But no, I was working with women in their 50s and thinking that I could relate to them, and I really couldn't. And I find that now that I'm working with women in my own age group, I just got off the phone with a new client of mine who said, I was attracted to you because she's 63. And she says, and you're in, my age range. And she said, it's so much better than someone who's in their 20s and 30s who I know can't relate to me.
Yeah, so absolutely. Absolutely. And so you are clearly, walking your talk.
And it's not easy, but it's one of those things where I always tell people, it's really your consistency, being consistent with your exercise, with your eating. There's really, we all want that quick fix. We want, just tell me what to do sort of thing. I get that sometimes on my webinar. It's like, there's not one single thing because it depends on the person, but I'm a big advocate of finding what works for you. And what I do with the women that I coach now is I really explore, like, what is it? Where are your sticking points? What are you struggling with? Is it the nutrition part? Is it the exercise? A lot of times it's motivation. In fact, that's a huge one, just sticking with a program.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. And what do you find that, say, women in their, 40s and 50s, what are their challenges as opposed to kind of, when you're younger and you're naturally a bit more pert and a bit less wobbly?
Well, there's a difference too between, I think, 40s and 50s. So when I started my business a few years ago, I was originally going to target women over 40. And I was working with a coach who said, you're over 50. There's a big difference between over 40 and over 50. And the biggest difference is, I'm going to use the M word, menopause, because the average age for menopause for women, I think, is 51. And I went through it at 49. And a lot of things change at that point. And there's things that you can change and things that you can't. And so what I always tell people and tell women is that you want to work on the things that you can control. Like, there's a lot of research that shows weight gain is not inevitable. I weigh the same now. In fact, I weigh less than I did in my 30s, but it's not like I just can eat anything I want. I mean, I'm very diligent about my diet, but the thing that you cannot control is that we do lose, collagen, we lose the elasticity in our skin. But again, we can partially prevent some of that, or at least slow it down with sunblock. I mean, there's always something you can do, but it's just a lot of women just sort of give up and they just figure, you know what, I'm just going to let my body do whatever it's going to do. And if that's really the choice you want to make and you're happy with that, I'm not going to judge, but usually it's not the case.
And I think, so let's talk a little bit about kind of the aging process here. Even kind of looking at my own mum, who actually is aging amazingly. But I remember some kind of things that she would say when I think when she turned 40, well, rather, as I remember her growing up, she kind of had quite long hair, but then all of a sudden she was kind of like reaching her mid-40s. She cut all her hair off and got this kind of perm. And because I think that's what her mother did. It wasn't right for a long time. My mum would say, oh, you can't have your hair long over 40. And I said to my mum, well, okay, I'm over 40 now. I've still got my hair long. And she, oh, it's different. It's different now. She said, no, don't cut your hair off. But I think women are aging later now. I think 40 is the new 30, isn't it? Or 50 is the new 40 and all this. What are your thoughts on that, Linda?
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring up the haircut thing, because that seems to be, and I've even had my hairstylist tell me that women will come in and say, well, I guess it's time, I'm at that age where I need to cut my hair. And she said, I always ask them, like, what is it that, why do you feel that way? And they would say, well, I just think it's, some of them, I mean, look, if you're super busy and it's a lot easier to care for shorter hair, that's one thing. But if you're doing it just because that's what you think society expects of you, and you look at women like Christy Brinkley, who's 64, who looks amazing. Yes. There's some other women, and granted, these are, people who are in the spotlight or in Hollywood, so they have more of an incentive to stay that way. But there's a compromise in there. And I think giving up is one end of it, where you just say, forget it, I'm not doing anything. And then being, you can be a little obsessive. So I think you have to find what works for you. I'm kind of, my motivation is knowing that I have to set an example for the women who I coach. I mean, who's going to respect? It's like going to a dentist who has bad teeth. I mean, who's going to?
Absolutely. No one wants that. And I think that there is a balance between, finding the style that suits you. But here, I don't know if in America you have the same phrase, but there's a phrase called mutton dressed as lamb. Have you heard that? Do you have that?
No, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, there's a phrase. And I think some people could take that look, to an extreme. But then ultimately, again, that is just another judgment that others can put upon you. It's a bit like people say, well, who are you to be? Like short skirts as well. And dressing your age. What does that even mean? Dressing your age.
I know. I had an image consultant on to talk to my membership group, and I know her personally. And, one of the things she said during the interview, and she's told me personally too, is that, women, if they've gained some weight, they tend to go in one of two directions. Either they wear something really tight and are in denial, or they wear something really loose. And she said, both of them make you look heavier. This is an age where you really want to get fitted clothes, go to someone who really knows how the pants should fall or how a jacket should fit. And that's what really makes you look thinner and, more pulled together, to not deny what shape you are, but to go with it. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. There are lots of different ways where it's about getting help and advice, I think, for the hair, for the makeup, for the clothes as well, rather than just kind of guessing and just picking any old thing. And I think, when you mentioned celebrities who, look amazing as they get older, and yes, they may be in the spotlight, but I look at people like Liz Hurley as well, who I think is in her mid-50s now. And I always say, if someone else has done it at that age, then there's absolutely no reason why you can't too. if that's your desire. However, as you said, if it is your desire just to, to give up and to, just
let things be,
get old, but you're happy with it, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. I think as long as you are happy where you are. However, if the desire is there to improve your appearance, but also not just your appearance, your health as well, because obviously we're going to be going to the fitness in a minute as well. I'm 42, and I've only just started working with a personal trainer this year. I've never done weight-bearing exercise in my life, ever. And I've only just recently discovered, the importance of weight-bearing exercise for women as they get older, that actually it does strengthen your bones. And I am on the way to being in the best shape of my life, much better shape than I was in my 20s, when I really didn't look after myself very well at all, because I thought, you know what, I'm 20, I don't need this. But now, as you get older, I'm loving this new journey that I'm on.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the weight training, because that's the whole of that webinar that I have, How to Firm Up After 50, is all about strength training. And in the webinar, I talk about one of the most important things to know is that we start losing muscle. This is for men and women. We start losing muscle in our mid-30s. And when you're in your mid-30s, you're not really thinking too much about it. And again, this does pertain to men and women, but with regards to weight loss or weight maintenance, muscle burns more calories at rest than fat. So if you start losing muscle, and it's the rate of 1 to 2%, I think, per decade, which sounds like, oh, that's not anything. That adds up to up to 30 pounds by the time you get to 50, if you do nothing about it. So when you have more muscle, it takes a lot of calories to maintain it. So when you're at rest, like just now we're sitting, your muscle is metabolically active, where fat is kind of sitting there, burns a couple calories an hour, not really that much. So when you are losing all that muscle throughout your lifespan, it's easy to gain weight, and your fat is starting to increase. And this is what happens. It's one of the big changes that happens that women start to notice so much. And that's the only way to reverse that, is with resistance training. It's the only way. And walking isn't enough. You still have to add, and walking is great for cardiovascular and just to get outside and, aerobic exercise, but you need the weight training too. And that's usually what women are not doing.
And I had no idea. I really didn't. I thought, I've got a bit of an echo from time to time. I thought that weight bearing exercise was all about, for meatheads and those, bodybuilders, completely ignorant to the benefits of weight bearing exercise. And because I think we've been conditioned or taught it was all about aerobic and cardio and just burn and Jane Fonda workout videos.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the whole thing with, women are afraid of muscle. I don't hear that as much as I used to, but that is still, I don't know where that came from, because I've been doing this for 20 something years. I have never met a woman that blew up with muscle from doing like a regular routine. It's not going to happen, I've never seen anyone, even in the gyms I've worked out. I mean, there's some women that will gain more muscle. I mean, there's certain body types. Like I have a body type that gains more muscle because I'm shorter, like as opposed to like a runner's body, where someone has very long, limbs, and that's different. But the whole thing is, if you don't do something, your metabolism does slow down, and you don't have the muscle tone. People talk about muscle tone. I want muscle tone, but yet I'm afraid of getting muscle. Well, you can't tone fat. So what are you working with, is what I always say.
And what about things like, like belly fat? You talk about that as well, don't you? That's something that is traditionally associated with kind of like women kind of around the time of the menopause.
Mm-hmm. And that's a hormonal thing. So that when we talk about like what you can control and what you can't control, what you can control is your weight. What you cannot control as much is the things that the weight gain that is due to hormonal shifts. So what happens is, after menopause, women start to develop more of a male pattern fat distribution. Are we okay with that?
Yeah, you froze there for a sec. You're back now.
Okay. Women tend to develop more of a male pattern fat distribution after menopause. So men traditionally will gain weight around their waistline, before menopause, and women will usually gain it around their hips and their legs. After menopause, that women start to have the same sort of fat distribution as men, which is also why the risk of heart disease goes up, because now our fat is closer to our heart. And so belly fat is the result of that. So there's a phrase called menopause, which is like, what happens. And even though I weigh the same, I can see a difference. And, my waistline has expanded and I know what I'm doing. So I know I'm doing everything I can. And still there's a difference there. So, some of it you have to kind of accept. And if you fight it and are depressed about it and upset and angry, that's what it makes you old. It's not, you just do the best you can. And that's what, all you can do.
And what about kind of diet and nutrition tips? Because you're a nutritionist as well, aren't you, Linda?
I have a bachelor's in nutrition, so I don't really have like an RD or anything, but I've worked with it enough. And what I found is that research shows that women over 50 can lose weight on a 1,300 calorie diet. And this was proven. There was a study, I've quoted it a number of times in my blogs, and it's a certain amount of protein, fat, and carbs. And I forget what the distribution is. It's not anything crazy. I'm not a low carb person. I think that cutting out pasta and rice, at least cutting those portions, are from a caloric standpoint important, but it's more the overall calories, and having protein at each meal is really important. Usually when I talk to women who struggle with their diet, they're not getting enough protein. And so protein keeps you full longer, revs your metabolism, keeps your muscle, but it mostly keeps you full, because carbs will make you hungrier. Like, I don't know why, if I eat fruit makes me hungrier for something else. I don't know what it is. It's like
fruit makes me ravenous.
It's all carbs, which is fine, but have like cheese with it, or a little peanut butter and a little peanut butter. We have this thing with peanut butter where, it's seen as a protein source. It's pretty low in protein for the calories you're getting. So I would go with a leaner protein.
That's because I do like a little bit of protein on my apple. Not protein. I do like a bit of peanut butter on my apple wedges.
No, that's fine. Yeah, just don't put like half a cup on them, and you're fine. It's all about proportions,
Now, Lisa made a funny comment here. This is when we were talking about the clothing. I'm just going to show it here. So she's recommending that we don't do our clothes shopping as in the same place we do our grocery shopping. So here we'd have Sainsbury's, Tesco's. I think the US version would be Target.
Oh, yeah. Rather than clothes shopping in the grocery. Yeah, I don't know. Does anyone do clothes shopping in the grocery store?
Yeah. I got some great items from Sainsbury's.
Oh, funny.
But I think really what you're saying is that, if you are struggling to find clothes for your right shape, then it's worthwhile investing in a stylist who's going to, suggest things and suggest colors that are going to look good on you as well. Right. I think that's what you're saying.
I think it's worth it. We have stores out here called Forever 21. I don't know if you've seen them when you've been.
Yes, we have it here too. Yeah.
That's like where you don't want to shop when you're over 50, because they're just like disposable clothes. They're really, usually not well made, and so it's worth investing in something nice. I don't work outside the house. I work, at home, so I have like 50 pairs of jeans, and most of my shirts are t-shirts, and but that's but I do know what looks good, and having a friend who's a stylist helps sometimes. So.
Absolutely. So Linda, you mentioned about the webinar you do. Could you tell us a little bit about that and who that's aimed at?
The webinar, I call it How to Firm Up After 50. And it's a focus on some of the things I just talked about, which is, what are the changes that happen? Why does it seem harder to firm up after 50? And some of it's the hormonal stuff, and some of it's the shift in fat and everything. And then I go into the importance of strength training, how to do it, and why it's so important, and just it's like a overview of resistance training. There's a lot to it, so, and this is also why women tend to not do it, is because walking or doing their cardio, hopping on an elliptical trainer, that's easy, but then weight training, how do I do this exercise? How many reps do I do? What's the difference between reps and sets? So I get into some of that. And then I do include an offer to join my membership, which is where I really have direct contact with everyone, which I call the Aegis Army, which was named, you know, people hear that and they think, oh, it must be Army. It must be like a boot camp thing. And it's really not. It's more about the camaraderie. And that's why I call it that, because these women, there's about 100 women in it right now. And we all kind of support each other, and it's, you know, exchange ideas. And it's just a really great group. But it's all about, it's really, my passion is resistance training. I've been doing it for 38 years consistently. And even though I've been into other things, I've done Pilates, I've done a little bit of yoga. I was into the whole flash dance era. You have to remember, this is like, we're going back, you know, back in time. But I've always done resistance training. And it's one of those things that I just happen to really, I actually enjoy it. It's just something I love to do. I put my headset on, I go to a gym, and I'm in my world. That's where I fit in. And it's not for everyone. You can do it at home, but just doing some kind of resistance exercise is really important.
Yeah. And so, as I said earlier, I've been working with a personal trainer this year, because if you just let me, and I have joined gyms in the past. I have had gym memberships, and I walked straight past the weights. I went on the treadmill and, you know, did a bit of a rowing machine and thought I was, you know, yay, they look at me at the gym. But now it's a completely different effect. I didn't realize what a workout I got by lifting weights, you know, sweating by the end of it. It really is a revelation. So yeah, so ladies, if you do have gym membership, don't walk past the weights. Don't just hit the treadmill. Honestly, I personally find treadmills a bit pointless when you can run in the fresh air outdoors. But anyway, that's just my take on it. You know, go and talk to one of the personal trainers, let them show you the equipment. And I would probably recommend to book some sessions with a personal trainer, because you're not going to know what you're doing. You could end up injuring yourself. Do it correctly, do it properly. And and you just increase the increments, the weights. You're not going to go straight for the heaviest weights, or you will do yourself damage. But it's amazing just seeing how far I've come on, how I've built up my strength. And I've always told myself, my story was that, oh, my upper body strength is terrible. I'm so weak. I couldn't do a push-up. I can do push-ups now. I haven't quite got to a chin up. I'm nowhere near a chin up yet, but that's my goal. That's my vision for myself, to be able to do a chin up.
And that's awesome. I just wanted to add, if you're looking for a trainer and you're over 50, to ask the trainer what kind of experience they've had. Because even though when I was in my 30s, I was working with a lot of women in their 50s, even though I wasn't, like I said, now I can relate much better. But you do want someone, there are certain certifications that trainers can get where they specialize in working with, I hate to say the word, they call it seniors. And there's no really good word for people over 50. I just said people over 50. But there are some differences, you know. So one of the things, for example, is that our tendons tend to get, I had an orthopedic surgeon say, he goes, I hate to use the word, but they do get to be more brittle. There's a higher incidence of tendinitis, which is an overuse syndrome. So if you do a lot of weightlifting and you're not taking time off, you could develop tendinitis. I've had that a bunch of times. And it's one of those injuries that it's not super painful, but it's annoying, and it lasts for like 6 months or longer just to get rid of it. So it's just overuse. So you don't want to do too much too soon, and you don't want to do too much in general. So, you know, you need to really make sure that you have good instruction from a qualified person, not just someone who's, you know, new to the game.
Yeah.
A lot of times they don't know.
And it's never too late, is it, to begin?
Oh, no. And people over 90, there was this big study out that showed that people over 90 who never lifted weights could improve their strength greatly.
Oh, my goodness.
It's amazing. I know. Well, the thing is too, if you're already, if you have not been doing any weight training, you're going to see results quicker than someone who's already been doing something, because you have farther to go. But it's a great motivation to keep with it, because you're going to see those results sooner. So that's probably, you know, you found that, right? Because you never did it before.
There's a lady I came across recently, I don't know if you may have heard of a lady by the name of Ernestine Shepherd.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And wow, she is inspirational. My gosh, I think she's in her 80s now, and she didn't begin her exercise journey till she was, I think, 70, 71. And now she's training other
she had a
look,
sister who died, and I think
really?
she had promised her sister that she would continue their work. They used to work out together. So that was
Mm,
her motivation. Something I'm almost positive that was the story.
yeah, just incredible. You know, just Google her, Ernestine Shepherd, I think her name is. Just incredible. And you know, and this is why I'm so passionate about people having a big vision for themselves in any aspect of their life. But your health has got to underpin any vision you build on top of that. There's no point in having a big vision in your business if your health is down the pan. You know, your health and your energy and your vitality levels are crucial, and it's never too late to begin that journey wherever you are in your fitness journey right now. Even if you kind of think, you know, I haven't done a day's exercise in my life, I just hope this episode inspires you to just get started, to seek out some, you know, some advice or accountability buddy, to just do something. Perhaps, you know, do you have some examples of people who you know, this was all new to them and the changes that have happened for them?
I think the thing is to start slow, you know, and to like set small goals for yourself. And that's usually the hardest thing is to stick with it. You know, people who start out and they're really gung ho about it, and then it's like anything else. After a while, it's like, well, if this is it, you know, I'm kind of bored. And we're just, most of us have such short attention spans. I had someone the other day who said to me, she said, I can never stick to a program because the thought that I have to do this the rest of my life just, it just baffles me. I can't do it. And I said, then stop thinking about it like that. And she goes, really? I said, just plan on doing something for a couple of months. I said, stick with this for a couple of months, and then we can talk about, you know, what else you can do after that time. But if you set yourself up mentally to be bored or just, I mean, your mindset is like so much of this. I mean, I've been doing this for so long and I enjoy it because I find things about it. The music I listen to, the people at my gym. I mean, the workouts are pretty much the same. I do add little things to it, but find something about the workout that you like, even if it's the people that you do it with. You know, that will keep you motivated. Or just, I tell people this, only listen to certain music when you're working out, like only allow yourself. Like I listen to trance. I like trance music when I'm doing cardio because it has this beat to it. And I only listen to it when I'm doing cardio. And I love trance music, but when I'm doing my strength training, I listen to hard rock. And so when I do my cardio, I listen to trance. And that just, I look forward to each of those. And so that kind of thing, you know, you have to find what works for you. It's not the same for everyone.
And for me, I find that the biggest motivator is the results. And it is, I think any big change you're going to make to my life, it does take commitment. It takes consistency, and support, I believe, is essential. You know, it's hard to make these changes alone. However, I think there is, you know, I had Dr. Shannon Irvine on in the last season of Big Vision TV, and she talked about the neural pathways that are formed in your brain when it comes to making changes in your life, that it does take, I think she said it was 67 days to form a new neural pathway. And, you know, so there's no point kind of, so if you set yourself a goal as 67 days to stick to it, you know, that is a lot more kind of manageable than saying to yourself, I've got to do this for the rest of my life. But what will happen is at the end of 67 days, that new neural pathway of I love to exercise, because I never thought I would say that, has started to be is formed in your brain. And not only that, you start to see results, and the results are a huge motivator. You know, when I was measured, they don't weigh you at my gym, but they do measure you. And I lost 4 inches off my waist. And I was like, oh my goodness, that was, hang on a minute, was it centimeters or centimeters? Centimeters. There's a big difference there. I lost 4 centimeters off my waist. And that was a huge motivator, because I didn't really see any huge, I could see more muscle definition. And, you know, to lose I don't know, was it inches or centimeters? I can't remember. Whatever it was quite
It was
significant.
progress, and it's good. So
And and when we can track and measure our progress, that just spurs you on to want to keep going.
yeah. And one thing I wanted to add too is that when you're in your 20s and 30s, a lot of times the motivator to start exercising is aesthetics. I want a flat stomach. I want, whatever it is, the appearance. But after 50, it's more like the energy. I want more energy. I mean, yeah, there's still weight loss, of course. That's a lot of people's goals, but it's like being able to play with your grandkids without being exhausted. Being able to just do things for yourself. And I have a lot of women who, in my group, that are in their 60s and some in their 70s, and they're still active, and they want to stay active. And so it's a matter of getting more energy and being able to do what you want to do, which is important.
I am hugely inspired by older, more mature people, people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, who are still doing incredible things. There was a lady, she did a skydive, I think at the age of 75 or something. And, people who run marathons over the age of 80, I just look at them, I think, oh, wow, these are the people who inspire me, because, I want to be like that when I'm in my 80s and 90s. And it's about your mindset now, and it is totally a case of, well, if they can do it, then I can do it too. I've got no intention whatsoever of I always wanted to go backpacking around the world, but I didn't do it as a teenager or in my 20s. And I've always thought, I'd love to backpack around the world when I'm in my 60s, when the kids are all grown up and they've left home. And I'd love to do that. I've always kind of had this vision for older age as, just the time to really enjoy life. And and I think that's certainly a part of my big vision, that my old age is going to be healthy and energetic.
And not all of us can do all of those things. Like, I have no desire to skydive at 70. I mean, I just don't. But, but I am planning on something for my 60th, because those decade birthdays, they can kind of hit you. And there was a guy at my gym a few months ago. He was sitting around looking kind of depressed. And I looked at him, I said, "What's the matter with you?" And he said, "Oh, he goes, I just had my 60th birthday." And I said, "So," I don't know if he knew how old I was. He goes, 60 is the age when you're officially old. And I thought, "Oh, thanks for that." So, it's what you make it. And that he was just bummed out about it. And I just refuse to do that, and I don't care what. I mean, I have health issues. I just don't focus on them. I don't talk about them. I just work around. The only time I talk about it, I went to my doctor last week and we had to review everything. And I have high blood pressure from heredity, so I have that under control. And there's, osteoporosis I have, which I've talked about on my blog, just from an eating disorder I had back in my 20s. And so I'm paying the price for that now, but I don't focus on that. There's so many things I can do. And that's what I tell everyone, is just stop focusing on your limitations and arguing for them. I can't do this because, no, what can you do? That's a question. What can you do? What are you okay doing? What doesn't hurt? And we work on that.
Yeah. So I'll just post up the link again. If you'll see scrolling across at the bottom, is a link to Linda's website. It's not a link, but lindamelone.com. And on Linda's website, you'll see the link to the webinar that Linda has as well. And there's some other freebies and offers and
challenges, ab challenge, 5-day ab challenge, a couple other things on there. So
amazing. And you'll find all of that at lindamelone.com. I won't post the link to the webinar because it's too long and no one will remember it. But you'll find it all. Go and check out Linda's website, and you can find out all about the Ageless Army as well, which sounds amazing. Any final words of wisdom? Actually, something is one of my favorite I love an inspirational quote. I've got no idea who this quote is by, but and I can't remember where I read it, but it's like, I believe that aging is inevitable. No, getting older is inevitable, but aging is entirely optional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always say that it's just an attitude more than anything.
Yeah.
Really,
So,
feeling good about yourself. When you feel good about yourself, you take care of yourself and you look better and you smile a lot and you laugh a lot. And that's the key.
yes, absolutely. I say that to all my coaching clients, that feeling good is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, and do whatever it takes to feel good, to have more joy in your life. And obviously exercise does release those endorphins and those feel good hormones. That really is the most important thing. Thank you so much, Linda. It's been wonderful talking to you. Really kind of, I was umming and ahhing about going to the gym tomorrow, putting it off to the weekend, but I'm going to go now tomorrow.
Good. So I inspired one person.
I'm sure you've inspired more than that. And even if you're watching on the replay, then hello. So thank you so much, Linda. I will say goodbye to you now. But if you just hang in the lobby for a moment, I'll speak to you at the end of the broadcast. Bear with me. I've just forgotten how to do this. Oh, technical. There we go. Right. Thank you so much, Linda. What an inspiration. I hope Linda has inspired you to kind of think about your own health and fitness, whatever age you are. You may not be, you don't have to wait till you're over 50. You can do this sooner, but whatever age you are, I hope Linda has inspired you just to kind of take some action towards looking at your health and fitness levels. So come to the end of another episode, and as I shared at the beginning, there were some technical issues at the beginning, so sorry about that. So if you came on late and the screen was black, I apologize. So Big Vision TV is sponsored by my online program, Create the Dream. So if any of these episodes have inspired you to kind of make some changes in your life, either in the area of your health or fitness, if you want to do something different, or have a business goal, or your home living arrangements, if you have a big vision for an aspect of your life and you don't know where to get started, then Create the Dream is the perfect place to find out all about it. And you can find out all the details at melaniebundock.net/create the dream. It's my self-study program where I will help you get clear on the goals that you want to focus on in your life, but also give you the tools and the action steps to help you create a vision board, which I'll add is just a tiny part of the process, and to keep you in alignment with your vision as well. So thank you so much for joining me. Apologize for the technical difficulty at the beginning. No idea what happened there. And I'll be seeing you next week. My guest next week is a lady by the name of Dr. Christine Lee. Now, she's also known as the procrastination coach. So if you struggle with if procrastination is the thing that's stopping you from taking any action, then you will not want to miss next week's episode. Christine Lee will be sharing with us some techniques to help, banish that procrastination, to help you take action and help you, gain some momentum towards your big vision. So I will see you same time next week, 8 p.m. UK, that's noon Pacific, for next week's episode of Big Vision TV. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.